If you are already working with a naturopath, an integrative, or a functional medicine doctor, and after a year you are still not pregnant, this episode is for you. Hi, I'm Dr. Jane Levesque, and this is the Natural Fertility with Dr. Jane podcast, where we help couples uncover the real reason behind their fertility struggles. Today, I want to walk you through why having a functional doctor on your team does not automatically mean you have a fertility plan. The key nuances most generalists are going to miss in fertility cases, and what actually needs to happen differently if you've been trying for over a year, and especially if you've been trying to conceive for over 2 years. So, fertility is not the same as women's health, or balancing your hormones, or improving your thyroid function, or your gut function. All of those components are really important, and they are a part of it. But it comes down to looking at things through a fertility lens, and I'm gonna walk you through what that means in this podcast. If your care team isn't timing blood work with your cycle, or they're not digging into your INITO data, they're not bringing your partner fully on board, they're not in tune on how things like endometriosis, PMOS, or diminished ovarian reserve show up on functional lab testing, these are blind spots that will eventually impact your ability to get pregnant or stay pregnant. So if you've been trying for more than a year, and especially if you've been trying for over 2 years, or you've had multiple losses, you are no longer a simple case. You don't need more random supplements or random recommendations online. You need someone who lives and breathes fertility. Fertility is a specialty, and a functional doctor is a generalist. So those are not the same thing. So let's talk about the functional gaps. Why your functional doctor hasn't gotten you pregnant. There are 3 big gaps that I see. Gap number 1, female testing without the fertility nuance. Most functional doctors will run basic blood work. Some will and some won't time it with your cycle precisely. So it depends. Some will run the CD day 2 and 3, cycle day 19 to 23, or 7 days post-ovulation. Sometimes I'll run panels multiple times through the cycle, so 4 times through the cycle, so I can see how the hormones are fluctuating. Your general functional doctor is not going to do that. And what I want to make sure that I make clear is I am not against functional doctors at all. I love my colleagues. I just think that there's a specialty and then there is a generalist. And I used to be a generalist myself, and I loved what I did and I loved my practice. But when I decided to specialize in fertility for my own personal reasons, I realized how much I was missing as a generalist. And so now in our practice, we see couples coming to us all the time, and it's mostly women who are saying, I'm doing so much on the functional medicine side, and I'm still not getting pregnant. I don't want you to think that your body is broken, and I don't want you to think that natural medicine doesn't work, because there are nuances as fertility specialists that generalists are just not going to pick up. And so my hope is with this, you're going to be able to see exactly what I'm talking about. So let's go back to the gaps. Is running the basic lab work, but not really timing it with your cycle. They also often missed more nuanced labs like cancer antigen 125, deeper hormonal assessment like androstenedione, 17-OH progesterone, DHT, or even a full testosterone panel, because again, they don't really understand the context of it in the fertility space. They usually do not integrate tools like INITO or MIRA, or cervical fluid tracking, basal body temperature as actual data to see the ovulation strength, to match it up with your blood work and see how the cycle is fluctuating from month to month. You are usually not getting that with your functional doctor. They also don't often understand the endometriosis, the PMOS, the autoimmune or thyroid issue, and how it's connected to the fertility context. I see a lot of practitioners hyper-focusing on the thyroid, which I think the thyroid is super important, but I often do not see it as the root cause of the fertility issues. And so when we're just hyper-focusing on the thyroid, we're often missing some really, really big pieces. And just being able to see the patterns of the FSH, the estrogen, the progesterone dynamics, the inflammatory markers, the imaging, all of that often is missed. And those components are really, really important. For example, someone with a CA125 marker that's above 30 is a much higher risk for having a miscarriage than someone who has a CA125 at 10 or 15, because this is a marker for endometrial inflammation. Again, most generalists are not going to run it. I didn't run it when I was specializing in fertility. Now, The second gap that I see when you're just seeing a functional generalist practitioner is ignoring or underplaying the male factor. And I think it's just the way that the practice is set up. If you're going to see a generalist, and I've had women who came to me before I specialized in fertility who wanted to optimize their hormones to help them conceive. It was just them that was seeing it. And I would say, it would be good if your husband could come, but you guys don't have issues yet. So let's just work on you. And obviously that's a huge gap. But I do find that many functional docs don't order or deeply interpret semen analysis beyond their normal range. They also don't push to bring the partner on board because they just work with whoever makes the appointment. And then again, that's usually the woman. And, even if he does end up coming onto the appointment, they're fragmented. He doesn't really understand why he's there. So again, all the work kind of just falls onto the woman. I really am a big believer that, you need a team that looks deeply at the sperm parameters, including morphology, motility, DNA fragmentation, lifestyle factors, and will run parallels, male and female workups, so we can see both sides of the story. I can't tell you how many of our patients were told that the male partner is fine, and here he is with barely normal sperm for IVF, let alone for natural conception. And I think if your current provider isn't insisting that your partner is with you, they're not treating fertility, they're just treating you in isolation, which I don't think is wrong, but if your goal is fertility, then you need to involve your partner. The third gap is there isn't a true bridge with conventional fertility medicine. So general functional pattern, they will test one at a time, they'll fix, and then they'll do the next test. And I think that's fine for general health, but this is brutal for fertility because if you just run one test at a time, see what's up, take the time to fix it, which would be minimum 6 to 12 weeks, then you rerun the test, and then you go, okay, well, that's fixed, but the fertility is still an issue, so let's try running this test now. And then you repeat that same cycle. This is literally how you run out of time. And if you've already been struggling to conceive for a couple of years, time is not on your side. And I don't care if you're 25 or 45, it's just your time is not on your side in the fertility space ever. I do find, because there isn't that true bridge between the conventional and the fertility medicine, there is no clear plan for when to push for conventional testing, whether that's an HSG or hysteroscopy or see a NAPRO specialist for suspected endo, or when it's time to coordinate the fertility clinic and bring in assistance. You do not get that lens and that understanding. That's not something that I was aware of when I was a generalist. So I do find that the people that we have the most success with, we front load testing phase as much as we can without overwhelming the person. That includes conventional testing, but then also targeted functional tests. And we do that as quickly as we can in that first 30 to 60 days, not over 2 to 3 years. And then we want to have someone who speaks both the hospital and the holistic language, if you will. So someone who can help you advocate the conventional system. Because with complex fertility, you just cannot afford one test at a time or one system at a time. And it's not about going one way or the other. The goal is to help you bring a healthy baby into this world and help you grow your family. And I find with complex fertility cases, we often need to learn how to work with both systems. And that's actually something that we do all the time with our patients, is we prepare them for those appointments. So they know what to expect, they know what to ask, they know how to advocate for themselves, and they find good practitioners, because just like in anything, there's good practitioners and bad practitioners, and you need to interview your people and your team to make sure they are on your team and they're actually, in line with your goals as well. So here's kind of my advice to you. If you've been trying for over a year, and definitely if it's been more than 2 years, do not put your fertility in the hands of anyone who just doesn't specialize in fertility, whether that's conventional system or holistic side. And I mean things like acupuncture, naturopathic doctors, functional, chiropractic. You want to find people who specialize in fertility, not just women's health, not just hormones. It needs to be fertility. So let me spell it out for you, what I believe a true specialist team will actually do for you. So this is a team who will look at your conventional labs and help you make sense of what is going on there. It's also someone who will test all the functional labs and help you explain how it's connected to your fertility journey. It's someone who's going to bring your partner on board from day one, and someone who has a clear process with real results. So we have been recording our data, and we have over 70% success rate. We have our testimonials of those couples who are willing to share on our website. Some were kind enough to go on the podcast and share their stories. You need that kind of information to help you make a decision. I say that cheap care doesn't necessarily mean good care. Expensive care also doesn't mean good care and that it's going to work. You want to get smarter about the people that you interview, and you want to actually follow your gut. But you don't just follow your gut on, oh, this feels good. Usually it's the information that you get from the team that gives you the good vibes. And the information could be things like, they did involve my partner. They helped me feel heard and seen. They have really good testimonials. They have a smooth process that I could follow. It didn't feel chaotic. Those are the kinds of things that are going to help you make a decision. So if this sounds in line for you and this is what you've been looking for and you are just feeling stuck running all these random different functional labs and you believe in the power of natural medicine, but you just haven't been able to fully experience it, I want to invite you to fill out an application and see if we're the right team to help. And if we are, we'll show you exactly what that looks like. If we're not, we'll make sure to point you guys in the right direction so you still have your next step figured out. I genuinely believe that pregnancy is a natural process. So if it's not happening, something is missing. Our job as your practitioners to help you figure out what that is. And that doesn't mean that we don't need the help of ART. It just means that we want to go into any decision that we make feeling empowered and understanding why we're doing what we're doing versus forced or, kind of making decisions blindly. So I hope you guys find this episode helpful and it gives you some insight as to why it's so different to have a fertility specialist versus just a general functional practitioner. And like I said, I have nothing against a general functional practitioner. I used to be a general naturopath. I decided to specialize in fertility for my own reasons. And as soon as I did, I realized how much I was missing for those of my patients who were struggling with fertility. And that's just more knowledge and more time in this space. So thank you again for being here, and I'll see you soon.